Thank you for having me come. God bless you. I'm honored to come and share. A lot to share in just a few minutes here, but what God has done in the nursing homes over the last 20 years since I've been, actually 25 years since I've been going, is incredible. And I come respectfully in behalf of the people that live there. They obviously cannot come here and talk to you, but if they could talk, they would say that they are kind of like the people from Macedonia. If you remember in the book of Acts, there was a time when Paul had a vision. He saw a man crying out, "Come and help us." And that was his sign that God was calling him into Macedonia to minister there. It was not an easy ministry, and nursing home ministry is not easy. But the people are they're impoverished. But my concern is not so much the financial impoverishedness that they have, it's the spiritual and emotional and social impoverishedness that they experience constantly. They are, some of them are born again Christians, they have a love for God, but they are at the end of their road and they cannot figure out why life ended like this. And today I was in a care home, and the caregiver, the man who was in charge at the time, the man who was in charge at the time said to me, he drives a nice fancy car, he has a really nice fancy house and all this stuff, and he just says, when it all comes down to it, you see these people end their lives and all they have basically fit into 3 drawers in one room. A chair, a couple pictures, and that's it. And you start seeing the value of life in a totally different perspective. I've had 25 years of seeing this perspective, and it makes it very easy to not lay up treasures on earth, because the treasures that we lay up in this world, Jesus wants us to lay up treasures in heaven. And the treasures that I have in heaven that I'm so grateful for are people. I have seen God take the hand and the heart of hundreds and hundreds of people before their last days and take them home. And I look forward to that reunion with them. So it's in behalf of this group of people where right now I would say, there's a call, but I want to share it in this way. First of all, there are over 55,000 care homes in the United States. This is skilled care nursing homes and assisted living. And in them, there are approximately 2 million people living. The call that the resident has is, I think, to God and also to us, that do not cast me away when I'm old, and do not forsake me when my strength is gone. They're saying the same thing you and I would say. Today we are important. Today people are looking to us. Today we have value. Tomorrow morning we're nothing because we're shut away, and sometimes facilities that are more plush than any building we ever lived in. But that's the marketing world, and they're living in these facilities, and they're alone, and they're without hope, some of them. And so what can we do? Well, also I want to say this, that the numbers are important. I think each year over 800,000 people are spending all or part of their last 6 months in a long-term care facility. That is 1/3 of our mortality rate. Some of them, some of them go to a hospital and die. Some of them get to go home and die. But the last 6 months of 1/3 of this population will spend time in a nursing home. It is an amazing, giant mission field that the church is kind of oblivious to. Pastors go, and I want to say this. I mean, I listened to the presentation that these brothers and sisters gave earlier with the Youth for Christ work, and that, if I wasn't doing this, I probably would be compelled to go help them, because it's amazing what they're doing. It's great stuff. And I know that there's great stuff all over this.
You kids don't know what that means, but it's announcements time. It is
Oh boy.
Thompson trying to remind you, those of you that are in Science Club, you should
Now he knows what it's like to get interrupted.
In loving memory of Gustavo Gando, we will be holding a bake sale tomorrow after school to raise a fund for funeral due. I just hope you guys could bring money and help support. Thank you. Bye.
This is the only announcement. What happened was the girl that was on the news, they got drugged and killed. Rosada was a student here that moved the next day. Her clothes got stuck on the door. She got an argument with her boyfriend, and she got drugged by like 2.5 blocks, and she died. So that's what they're trying to raise funds for. So sorry about that.
That's all right.
Wow.
Can we just stop and pray for them?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Go ahead. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you that you bring this to our attention. And we ask for your mercy upon the family of this girl and the loved ones in this school as they would reach out to her, and that they would be moved with compassion to give in such a way that people would see Jesus, that would be drawn closer to you, and that the things of eternal value would be more important to them than anything. Bless them, Lord, and guide them in Jesus' name. So, 1/3 of our population will go through these care facilities. The other thing is, those who live there, 80% of them receive less than 1 visit a month. Some of them are visited daily. Some of them have 2 or 3 visitors in a day. Most of them do not receive visits, but maybe once a month or even less. Some of them once a year. It's incredible, the loneliness that goes on there. Some of us who are running all the time would love to have 2 or 3 days of nobody, but after about a week, it gets very old. Of course, the staff is there, but what the residents say to me sometimes, they feel like they're being processed. And they have so many regulations and so many responsibilities. There's just lots going on, and it's just one room after another hitting it. And when these staff people, some of them are very loving and caring, but when they can get a break, they take it. And a lot of times it's not at the bedside of somebody who cannot get out. So it's a pretty complicated environment for finding companionship and friendship. The other thing that's really hard for the residents, okay, you share a room with somebody, and this guy dies on you after a year or so, and 2 days later somebody else is in there, and it's just an amazing environment. Very difficult. But God says this. Jesus said, whatever you've done for the least of these brothers of mine, you've done it for me. It doesn't say it's like you did it for me. He is so personally connected. And that's what I appreciate about this compassion ministry and compassion focus today, is that Jesus can identify with the victim. And I think when he speaks of the man along the road, the Samaritan, stopped and helped this man, he didn't do everything for him, but he took care of him for a while. He took him basically to a nursing home and dropped him off, took care of some things, came back and visited him, cared for this man. We don't stop our lives, but we do what we can to help minister. Yes, sir?
Is a major part of your focus trying to lead these people to Christ? And if so, how receptive and capable are they in understanding what you're saying?
Thank you. That's a good question. Yes, the answer to that is absolutely. We are going to provide, as we said on the first slide, God Cares Ministry provides quality, Christ-centered spiritual care in long-term care facilities. That's our goal, is that every resident would have the opportunity to know, and here, in fact, let me just show our mission, is to recruit, train, and support those whom God is calling as missionaries into long-term care facilities. They share the love and the word of Jesus with the residents through one-to-one visits or group ministry. But our goal in doing that is that they would pray with the residents, that they might know, love, and trust Jesus. The home is taking care of the personal maintenance, taking care of a lot of the activities, the state regulations, but they're not required to personally take care of the spiritual needs. It's up to the church to do that. And the government doesn't do it, the home doesn't do it, families can't always do it. Sometimes people will not listen to their own family, but I have seen on numerous occasions where one of our volunteers will go in, we'll share with somebody and lead them to Christ, and the family members will say, I've been talking to my dad for 20 years, and he would not open to Jesus. And you come in and in 2 or 3 visits, and he's opening up to Jesus. Why? A prophet is not welcome in their hometown. Now, the other side of that question, though, people in nursing homes have dementia. So how receptive are they? That's part of the reason why we do the training. God is able to break through dementia, and he does. We receive Christ into our heart. God is spirit, and he works by the Spirit of God, and it is powerful how it is a rare occasion when people follow the principles that we teach, and they're very basic and very simple, where Jesus does not pull a person to himself. We do not do traditional evangelism. It's not allowed in the nursing home. It's a very governed kind of environment. We help people take Jesus' hand in the midst of their reality. And that is, we focus on areas of their spiritual needs where they need faith, hope, peace, purpose, and fellowship with God and man. Those are the 5 focuses we teach the volunteers to have. When they go in there and they see holes in the fabric of this person's life, they help them through scriptural sharing and prayer. And people open up to Jesus. It is different, but it is very effective and very fruitful. Make sense? Does that answer?
It does. Actually, I've done a little bit of this, and I just thought, what a great opportunity, because these guys are at death's door. I mean, my goodness, this is your last chance to share the gospel. So I tried, and I had that challenge, is sometimes they couldn't understand me, and I thought, man, am I too late? Then I think about these young people that were here at Fruits of Christ and thinking, what would be the best place to give ministry, and here's these young people have their whole life ahead of them. They can make such a difference. This guy's on a banana peel at the end of his life, and both of them sound very important. I just wondered if you make that part of your ministry to lead them into eternity with Jesus, not just make them more comfortable. At the end.
We actually have more of a discipleship approach rather than leading them to Jesus. We don't want our volunteers to come in and just say, okay, you're saved, okay, now I'm working with you. We want them to develop caring friendships with the people that last for the rest of their life. And then it depends, everyone's different. We have some people that really appreciate ongoing visits, and some don't. We love pulling them into the Bible studies. We have Bible studies with them. We teach them. They pray with us. They hear the word. Some of them memorize a little bit of scripture. They're singing the old hymns. We really try to walk in their shoes for a while. And it's actually very wonderful. I'll tell you, one man, he was about 65 years old, quite young for a nursing home. And his name was Ken, and he told me just before we baptized him that his goal when he entered into this nursing home was to take his life. He said, I'm too young. There is no way that I'm going to live in this facility. There's no way that I'm going to spend the rest of my days here. Well, after about a month or two there, he started going to our Bible study, and about 6 or 7 months later, he chose to be baptized. And he told me as I was preparing him for that time of fulfilling that sacrament, he told me that he was going to take his life. But then he says, but what happened is God got a hold of him, and he said, what happened to me was the best thing that ever happened in my life. He says, I know Jesus now, and I want other people to know him. And he spent the next 7 years of his life in that home sharing the love of Christ with other people. And there's so many testimonies like that. Yes, and there are definitely testimonies where people are not even able to tell you their name. But Christ can break through that. It is powerful. In our training seminars, we have a session called Ministering Beyond the Limitations of Dementia. And that's where we teach people. You can take a lay person who's born again and filled with the Spirit of God, and you can teach them in a day, and then a little bit of mentoring beyond that, to do an amazing amount of work in a care home. It's incredible. It's not rocket science, but it is very different. If you go into the nursing home and try to approach it with some of the great tools that are available through some of the ministries that are working with youth groups and prisons, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I've never seen it work very effectively. But the principles are the same. We still have to surrender to Jesus. It's no different. A person has to give their heart to him. So we teach them to do that on their level. I just want to give you a little bit of history. For me, I was born again in 1982. And about 1985, after searching for a long time, God, what do you want me to do with myself and my life and to serve you? I heard an announcement on the radio that they needed help as a volunteer in a nursing home, and I thought, I'll try it. I had been working for Alcoa at the time. I was a technician. And I was kind of a wannabe hippie, and still had long ponytail and all this kind of stuff. And I think that the people that were in that home couldn't figure out what I was doing in there. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I knew what I was doing in there, except just visiting the people. It was my job to bring them out for a Sunday service. And every Sunday I watched, of the 5 different Sundays rotating, a different minister come in. And 4 of them did the same thing every month. They gave a salvation message, asked for a show of hands, and after the people raised their hands, said they were saved or accepted Jesus, these ministers would go shake the hands of a few people and walk out the door. And I saw this for about 6 months. But there was one brother who came in on the 5th Sunday when they had one, and he was different. He and his wife hung out with the residents. He gave them a message that was life-giving, not just salvation, but about living for Christ, living out their last days for Him. And I saw what happened to the connection between he and his wife and these residents. And I began to complain a lot to God. Why don't these ministers understand this? And I just prayed. I used to pray all the time. I was single at the time. And one day I got all the people out, and I was complaining on the way there. And they were all out for the service, and the minister never showed up. And I knew that was God saying, now you get out there and do what you've been complaining about. And I was not ready. I was totally not ready for this. But this was my first being thrown into the pool, if you will. That led to just a series of events. It's just kind of a grassroots thing that took place here. And I later met a lady who was helping me. We started a Bible study every week. And then after a couple years, we were married. We spent a lot of time in 4 different nursing homes. I began to pray that God would allow me to leave my work with Alcoa and go full time. And I really sensed that in my prayer time, He said to me, how many homes can you go to? I can go to 10. I had it all mapped out. And He said, well, how many are left? Well, at the time, I knew of about 17,000. And He says, well, who's going to go to them? I'm not saying I heard this audibly, but I know in my heart God was speaking to me. And I said, I don't know. And He said, prepare to train them. And so I went back to school. I eventually was ordained, and I spent 7 years doing this, preparing. Paid off all our debt, put ourselves in order, followed a lot of principles that Larry Burkett taught. Some of you might know him. And in 1994, left Alcoa, resigned. Actually, I was doing quite well there. I was a technical specialist when I left, so I had it all. But I felt this is more important. So we left, did not know what we were doing. I had 0 classes in business. I had 0 classes on how to start a ministry. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what a board was hardly. All I knew is that we needed to provide spiritual care for the residents. And God took us from 0, and He began building. And I would say, first couple years knocking on church doors was like the worst years of my life. I'm out here, I got to figure out what we're going to do, get this thing started, and pastors are all patting me on the back, telling me I'm a good boy, but they don't want to do anything about it. And it was very hard. And then actually Bob Devine on WCRF, some of you might remember him, started doing interviews with me once in a while. And lay people started calling. And when a lay person called, we would sit down with them and the pastor. We'd begin the process, and we eventually developed a 5-phase process that started this whole thing where we walk a church from ground zero to an actual fruit-bearing ministry in a nursing home. That was about 12 years ago when that actually started happening. Since then, we've helped in Northeast Ohio here over 175 churches either start or enhance a care team that they already had going. But they're going to over 200 nursing homes now, care homes. Some are assisted living, some are skilled care. But in like around 05 or 03 rather, we wrote a book to kind of help people understand how to do this. Then we created a training video, and we wrote another book, and we put together a website, and we got all these things, how you have to do, just kind of keep building. Well, right now what we have is we have lots of people around the country that are wanting to do this too. And that's kind of to bring you up to what's kind of current now. That's what's happening. I just want to share. We just got a testimony not too long ago from a gal. She's down in North Carolina. She's been ministering in a nursing home. Took her
Students in the
niece.
building, you'll be suspended for trespassing unless you're with science club or other tutors or with your coaches or with teachers, getting some extra help, which is also tutoring. So if you're in the building, you should be tutoring. Science club, I'm going to be going down to room 220 right now.
Wow, this is just like a nursing home, you know, because you're ministering, you're preaching, and you think everything's coming out really well, and you got their attention, and all of a sudden somebody's calling the doctor or the nurse, and then they got to do it like 4 or 5 times, and it can be very tedious. It's a different environment, but if you can get used to that, it kind of works out really nice. Anyway, this gal Lisa brought her niece into the nursing home, whom she believed belonged to Christ, and she was a churchgoer and everything, but she was such a young girl, I think only about 12 or something. But after the service, one of the men said to Lisa, "I want to know Jesus." And so she took him aside and she sat with him, talked to him, prayed with him, and he accepted Christ. And they're going down the hall, Lisa and her niece looks at her, she says, "I want to know Jesus too." And so, you know, she was just astounded. She thought she already knew. So obviously she took her home, and they actually went to the church and they prayed, and her niece received Christ, and her niece started sharing with her family. It's like this whole family started opening up to Jesus. It's amazing what God is doing. But in the homes, you have residents that have been churched all their life, but they don't have a relationship with Jesus. They know about him, they know a lot of prayers, they know a lot of Bible verses, they know a lot of stories, but they don't know how to take his hand and walk with him day to day. And now that they're in this situation that no man can help them out of, and I appreciate the analogy he has, their foot's on the banana peel to eternity. You know, it's like that's where they're at, and they know it, and so they're open. They say you can't teach an old person that if you don't get saved by the time you're a certain age, like around 18 or 20 or something like that, that is not true. If you take youth methods and you try to lead a senior adult to Christ, it doesn't work. But if you come to them on their level, and understanding what their plight is and their situation, they're very wide open. So what we found, though, and I can tell you story after story, but what we found basically is that nursing home ministry is a compassionate move of God. It's something he wants to do. He's building his church inside the care centers of America. Every one of these care teams is like a church plant. So we have hundreds of church plants going on in these sub-communities. And I believe that we who have given ourselves to this ministry are actually joining God in his plan to take care of a group of people that will otherwise be forgotten. Because you can go right past the buildings and never even consider that there's 100 people in there. And the turnover is about 27 months. So right now there's 2 million people. 27 months from now, statistically, there's another 2 million people. It's a big business and a kind of a community for the dying. But our goal is to bring a culture and a community of life-giving culture. Yes, sir.
Are you primarily in homes that are primarily funded through Medicaid, or are you in private pay facilities, or how do you get in? I'm a little bit in this business, so I'm just.
Thank you.
And I haven't come across this before, but I mostly deal with private pay stuff.
Okay, we are in any nursing home that will open their door, and that's about 99.99%. Okay, we don't have an issue getting into a nursing home. We have an issue finding people that will go. Okay, so we don't even go to the nursing home and say, "Would you let us come in?" until we find people that are willing to go. So that's the first thing. But we have, I remember one time in 17 years now of doing this full time, one nursing home saying they did not want more volunteers. One time. And so it's pretty easy. The other thing that we did, one of the tools that we have is, we call this our first steps, and it's just a little insert that goes into this introductory newsletter, and this gives the person the 3 or 4 things that they need to do to get inside a nursing home. It's quite simple. to do, but it just gives a step-by-step and some guidelines to get them started, and hopefully connect them with God Cares who could help them get started. And I'm hoping to give everybody one of these just so you can see who we are. Yeah, I'll be done in just a minute here. I just want to speak a little bit about future plans. What we have, I just feel, very humbled and honored at the same time that God has given us a blueprint for this mission field. We're not the only one out there. We've developed a network of other ministries throughout the country that we're working with, the 25 other ministries that we're trying to help bring them along too. But what we want to do is, instead of adding care teams to Northeast Ohio and just hopefully growing, we want to begin more of a multiplication approach to this, where we want to start training up regional directors throughout the country who will create God Cares-like ministries to start doing the same things that we have done and whatever else God would show them to do to lift, to recruit, train, and support the volunteers that are coming in. It's a little bit overwhelming. Al said we're on a shoestring budget. Yeah, that's true. We have to be, because it's very hard to find people that will take an interest in this. And I understand why and everything, and we decided not to be mad at people for not doing what we do, but we do know that there are some people that are willing to do it, and if you're willing to be part of it, we would really appreciate, especially some of you businessmen. We need to develop a way and a platform, if you will, to create this multiplication process. There's a lot of talk already. We understand a lot of things that need to happen, but we do need help from people that are business savvy that can help us. Just tomorrow morning, I'm driving out to Youngstown. I got a guy driving all the way from New Jersey who wants to meet with me and start a ministry like God Cares throughout New Jersey. It's awesome. I got a gal in Montana, or Minnesota rather, that wants to do it. God is just continually giving us favor. We've asked him to give us, our strategy has been visibility. Create visibility that will create interest. Interest will create involvement. And that's, I'm not a businessman, but that's what I feel that I need to be doing. And we asked God to help us with that. Last year, I don't know, September or something, I got a call from a man from who does writing for Christianity Today. And it was amazing. He says, hey, we want to feature your ministry in an article. So Christianity Today, one of the biggest publications, it's kind of the Christian Times magazine. They did an article with us. It was one of the ministries featured. How about that for press? To me, that was like a God thing. And also, this guy has us, this in the last issue of Evangel, we were quoted. So God is allowing things to happen. I just really love it. Right now, we're hoping to create a couple films. The film that we saw earlier for this youth ministry that they showed was powerful. It's a powerful tool. We need to have that kind of tool available on the internet. It's quite expensive to do that, as you can imagine. That's one of many things. We need office space. We need a graphic artist, designer. We just need a lot of things. And I just would ask that you would consider, if there's anything that you would want to be part of it, I'd love to sit down and talk with you and see how maybe you and or some of the people that you know might be involved. I want to end by just saying this, that what God is doing through this ministry, and I lead God Cares, but there are a couple other ministries out there. My heart's desire is to see the mission field grow. It's a mission field that God is creating. I call it a mission field because the people in the homes cannot go to church. The church must go to them. And that's no different than if you drive or you fly all the way to Amsterdam or Papua New Guinea or something and share. People will not know Christ unless somebody goes to them. And so we are very concerned. And the people that stick with this and stay involved, we call them missionaries. And we feel that they deserve that honored title. Anyway, but there's an amazing expression of love. I just want to share that the good news is being shared in hundreds of care homes right now. Northeast Ohio is where we're focused, and so we have our numbers there. We don't know how much has gone outside of Northeast Ohio. We can't keep track, except that our video curriculum Well over, I think 75 of them now have been distributed and they're being used by groups. And I have people emailing us and writing us and telling us the amazing results God is beginning to cause it to spread more and more. People who were once lost are now safe in Jesus' arms. And yes, again, that is our ultimate goal. Our primary goal is to build caring friendships. Our ultimate goal is to help our friends take Jesus' hand. That's the bottom line of what we're doing. People who were in a prison of despair have found peace and hope, and for not only now, but for their future. It's easy for us who think that we have tomorrow to be okay. I would like to just say one more thing. My wife and I worked together for 23 years. In 2009 or 2008 in December, my dad passed away in December. The following March, the first week of March, my mother passed away. And on the third week of March, my wife passed away with cancer after 23 years of marriage. An amazing event took place in my life where I have sat at the bedside of hundreds, and it's over 1,000, but I can't say thousands because I don't know, but hundreds of people, and talk to them and help them find strength in Jesus as they're leaving this world. There are emotions that we don't even know exist when you go through certain things. And I thought that I understood the mission field. I thought I understood the people that I sat next to. And I'll tell you something, it's an amazing thing what a person goes through. You lose your spouse, you lose your house, you lose your animal. Some people are really in love with their animals. I'm telling you, that's a big deal for some people. You lose that ability to say hi to your neighbor. You lose the ability to go to the grocery store. And all that is just canned into this, okay, you're just on the waiting list. And what do you do to help those people? It sounds like a dry and dreary and terrible place, but I'll tell you what, you walk in that place, and those people know you love them, and you do love them, and they love you. It's like a glimpse of heaven to me. I understand there's wrinkles, there's smells, and there's weirdness, okay? I understand that. I'm not going to exclude that. But if you can get over that part, people don't know how to talk to somebody with dementia, but they talk to their cat. Now, give me a break, okay? And you don't know how to talk to somebody with dementia, but they talk to a little infant. The infant doesn't tell you 10 years later, I remember the time you were holding me and you said this and this and this. Well, no, you don't remember all that, but you love them. And because you love them, it nurtures them and it brings life to them. And because you speak the word of God that raised Lazarus from the dead, it raises them out of a lot of death too. It's very powerful. So, and then the other thing that I think is amazing, most of the people that we're working with are what we call back pew Christians. And you have your strong, sharp people up in the front pews, and the pastor says do this, and everybody's running to do it. And there's these guys in the back pews with their head down saying, well, I can't do anything. They're Christians, they've been given gifts too. And when you put them in an environment to have that opportunity to use their gift, they blossom. And I'm telling you, the 1,000 people that we are working with at LSET, and it's actually a lot more than that, we just don't know how to count them all, but most of them came from the back pews, and I was one of them. I'm telling you, I could not speak in front of a group of people, and you can see that changed a little bit. But well, just in closing, I want to thank you. There's a lot more that could be said. I would be happy to sit down with you. I want to give everybody one of these, if you would take one, and maybe read this or share it with somebody that in your business or wherever, your church, that might be interested in this mission field. And thank you. God bless you.